The headlines for tonight: over 1,400 overseas Filipino workers in the Middle East have requested for repatriation amid war. President Marcos assures enough oil supply in the country amid the Middle East conflict. House Justice Committee deliberates sufficiency in substance of the third impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte. Government records lag on fund utilization for January compared to the last year, according to President Marcos. Good evening, bringing you the latest news for tonight. I am ALVIN. PELOBELLO. This is Eurotv News Thread. The details in our broadcast: more Filipinos in the Middle East have expressed their desire to go home amid the conflict, but President Marcos admits harder repatriation efforts for the Filipinos amid flight cancellation due to aerial attacks threat. Here's the report.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. confirmed on Tuesday that many overseas Filipino workers have requested to be evacuated due to the war in Middle East. In a President press briefing today, he said that more than 1,400 Filipinos in the countries in the Middle East have requested repatriation. 586 OFWs from Dubai wants to be evacuated, 297 from Israel, 270 from Abu Dhabi, 231 from Bahrain, 22 from Jordan, and 10 from Iran. The president encouraged Filipinos in the Middle East to follow local advisories and stay in safe places while the government is still arranging the repatriation efforts.
Meron na tayong mga request na for repatriation. At yung isang grupo naman ay yung mga tiga doon na gustong lumabas at umalis doon sa danger area. So as of early this morning, ang advice na binibigay natin sa ating mga kababayan ay maghanap kayo ng safe place at doon kayo muna at you stay there and you stay in a safe place and stay indoors and stay away from areas of danger.
The chief executive also called for an immediate end of the hostilities in the Middle East. Although the Philippines is not directly affected, but the president hopes that the war will end as quickly as possible. Reports said that a conflict in the Gulf nation could last to another 4 to 5 weeks.
Ang problema, walang lumilipad na eroplano at yung mga airport ay tinatamaan na. We have heard reports of attacks on different airports around the region. Generally this is by Iran. Yung mga tumulong sa Amerika at yung mga bansa na tumulong sa Amerika ay inaatake ngayon ng Iran as retaliatory strikes.
In the crisis alert level released by the Department of Foreign Affairs on Monday, no country in the Middle East and Africa has erased in alert level due to the conflict. There was no change in the alert levels in Iran, Iraq, Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, Palestine, Syria, and Yemen, despite the exchange of airstrikes from Tehran, Israel, and U.S. military bases in the Middle East. According to the DFA, government posts in the affected areas remain vigilant, but the Department of Migrant Workers confirmed Monday that the government is prepared to evacuate Filipinos in the Middle East. The Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines, or CAAP, reported that about 72 international flights from Manila to Riyadh, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Bahrain, and the Middle East, vice versa, have been cancelled due to the ongoing threat of the airstrikes. This is ALVIN PELOBELLO for Eurotv News.
Amid the tensions in the Middle East, the Philippine government wants to ease the impact of looming prices of petroleum products in the country, as President Marcos assures public of sufficient supply of oil products. KRIZZA Lopez has the report.
Amid the exchange of attacks between the United States and Israel against Iran, a development expected to significantly affect global oil prices, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. assured that the Philippines has sufficient fuel supply despite the ongoing conflict.
First of all, let me assure everyone that we have sufficient supply of oil.
Earlier today, President Marcos met with cabinet secretaries tasked with ensuring the safety of overseas Filipino workers in countries facing serious security threats. According to the president, the conflict among the three countries has already affected the economy, particularly oil prices. On the first day of hostilities, oil prices rose to $82 per barrel but later eased to $76.50. President Marcos said the country has an oil stockpile that could last between 50 to 60 days.
We have 50 and a half days. Fuel oil is 51 and a half days. Gasoline is 51 and a half days. Kerosene, we have 67 and a half days. Jet fuel, A1 jet fuel is 58 days. LPG is 29 days. So we are okay for that period of time.
He added that other suppliers maintain oil reserves from which the Philippines may source supply, although export volumes could be limited depending on the situation. As a response, the government is planning to provide fuel subsidies to affected sectors, particularly the agriculture and transport sectors.
As soon as oil prices breach $80 per barrel, meron na tayong gagawin, and we will use several of the funds. We will use the funds. For example, we will use the Pantawid Pasada program and the subsidy for farmers and fisher folk.
Meanwhile, oil companies implemented another round of price increases this Tuesday. Gasoline prices went up by 1 peso and 90 centavos per liter, diesel by 1 peso and 20 centavos per liter, and kerosene by 1 peso and 50 centavos per liter. This is KRIZZA Lopez for Eurotv News.
The Philippine Defense Department assures Filipino people that tensions in the Gulf nation could not affect the country due to the EDCA sites built under the alliances of Manila and Washington reflects on U.S. bases in the Middle East that were used to attack the Iran, posing threat and worries for the Filipinos. Henry Nicolas has the report.
Amid the ongoing tensions in the Middle East, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. on Tuesday expressed support for calls urging a ceasefire among countries involved. On Monday, the president also met with his cabinet, noting while the Philippines' involvement is only tangential, it remains deeply concerning due to the presence of Filipinos in the conflict areas. Meanwhile, the Department of National Defense Secretary Gilbert Yebochidoro dismissed concerns that the Philippines could be dragged into the escalating conflict in the Middle East due to its alliance with the United States, saying such fears are unfounded. Teodoro emphasized that the situation in the Middle East cannot be compared to the Philippines. Instead, bilateral and multilateral alliances should be further strengthened to enhance the country's defensive posture.
Kung paano sila may repatriate, tulong-tulong to sa lalong madaling panahon. Ngayon, uulitin ko ang ating mga alyansa na marami pang mangyayari ay para sa defensive purposes lamang at for deterrent purposes na matagal na dapat ginawa.
Teodoro stressed that the Philippines' bilateral and multilateral alliances are strictly for defensive and deterrent purposes. The Armed Forces of the Philippines previously stated that the ongoing conflict in the Middle East poses no direct threat to the country. Furthermore, Teodoro added that the DND is focused on collaborating with the DFA and DMW for the safe repatriation of affected OFWs. The Philippine Coast Guard is also reportedly on standby for possible mass repatriation from the Gulf nation. Currently, the government is taking steps to safely evacuate Filipinos who may be caught in the Middle East conflict. This is Henry Nicolas for Eurotv News.
In the other news, the House Committee on Justice found sufficient inform in the third impeachment drafts against Vice President Sara Duterte, but has yet to deliberate the fourth impeachment case. Mia Layagin has more.
On the second day of the House Justice Committee's deliberations on the impeachment complaints against Vice President Sara Duterte, the panel discussed the contents of the third impeachment complaint as part of the process in determining its sufficiency in substance. Earlier, the committee declared the third and fourth impeachment complaints as sufficient in form, with the first draft set aside due to violation of one-year bar ruling and the second case withdrawn. ML Party List Representative Leila de Lima, endorser of the third impeachment case, presented the 5 constitutional grounds cited in the case, including the 6 specific grounds noted by the group of lawyers and clergy that filed the case.
It sufficiently substantiates 5 general constitutional grounds: culpable violation of the Constitution, bribery, graft and corruption, other high crimes, betrayal of public trust. Katapos naman po, the complaint contains a statement of facts, narration. These factual allegations as laid out are not isolated from the constitutional grounds for impeachment. Rather, several of them are intertwined with, and in some instances, subsumed under the 6 grounds for impeachment alleged in the complaint. So ang aking pong presentation, papakita ko na po kung ano yung mga examples, kung ano yung mga importante mga factual allegations, and then I will link it to the discussion of why they are constitutive of the offense charge as enumerated.
The hearing went on for over 5 hours of deliberations, with the members of the committee actively discussing every grounds of the case as well as the allegations under it. The committee noted that it is important that the panel determine that the impeachment proceedings are not politically inclined. Among those discussed is whether Duterte has direct participation and influence over the alleged anomalous disbursement of the confidential funds under the office of the Vice President. The committee also sought clarification on whether the panel has jurisdiction on the alleged confidential funds misuse in DepEd, citing that the secretary position is not among the impeachable officials. Members of the committee also had mixed positions on the allegations against Duterte's supposed assassination threats against President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos, and former House Speaker Martin Romualdez. The committee meanwhile suspended the hearing without deciding yet on the sufficiency and substance of the third complaint and will wait for the discussion of the third impeachment complaint set on Wednesday. This is Mia Layagin for Eurotv News.
Various telecommunications providers will offer free calls for Filipinos affected by the Middle East conflict. Each call will last 30 minutes and will last almost 4 days. Graciela Corazon brings us the details.
For overseas Filipino workers or OFW in Iran, Iraq, Israel, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia, you can now make free calls using PLDT and Smart. This has come after the chairman and CEO of PLDT and Smart Communications, Manny V. Pangilinan, announced that he will provide free calls for Filipinos affected by the conflict in the Middle East. According to Manny Pangilinan, the free calls using PLDT and Smart's applications and subscribers are valid until March 7, 2026. Each call will last up to 30 minutes and there is no limit to the number of calls per day. This will make it easier for OFWs to communicate with their families, friends, and loved ones from the Philippines. Meanwhile, you can call using PLDT, Smart, and other Smart and PLDT network using these numbers. At the same time, the Department of Migrant Workers or DMW reminds the OFW affected by the crisis in the Middle East to contact the following hotlines and online platforms for immediate requests for assistance and repatriations if needed. DMW also strongly reminds of all OFWs to remain focused, be careful, and follow official notice and directives from the Philippine Embassy in the respective host countries. DMW also said it is continued to be on standby to ensure the safety and well-being of every OFW nationwide. This is Graciela Corazon for Eurotv News.
Despite the larger funds released by the Department of Budget and Management in January, it is noteworthy that the total amount of funds used by the government in the first half of 2026 was only low compared to the same period in 2025. KRIZZA Lopez has the report.
The Department of Budget and Management has issued a notice to agencies that recorded low spending of their allocated government funds. Based on the Notice of Cash Allocation or NCA, the government's NCA utilization rate declined to 42.2% compared to the same period last year. This is despite the DBM's releasing 322.7 billion pesos in January, 7.3% higher than the 300 billion pesos released in January 2025. The NCA report showed that only 136.3 billion pesos were utilized by major government agencies, leaving 186.4 billion pesos unused. The Department of Labor and Employment or DOLE posted the lowest utilization rate among major agencies at 20.2%, followed by the Office of the Vice President at 32.8%. On the other hand, the Commission on Elections recorded the highest utilization at 97.6%. Second was the Commission on Audit at 95.1%, followed by the Department of Foreign Affairs at 90.9%, and the Department of Tourism at 89.5%. 8 government agencies recorded below 70% utilization rates, including the Department of National Defense, Department of Migrant Workers, Department of Education, and Department of Justice. The Office of the President posted a 66.9% utilization rate, while Congress recorded 65.5%. According to Budget Undersecretary Goddess Hope Libiran, the DBM is coordinating closely with concerned agencies to determine the specific drivers behind the lower NCA utilization rate as of end January 2026, ensuring explanations are evidence-based and agency-specific. Initial monitoring suggests that slower utilization may be attributed to reduced disbursement level in major infrastructure implementing agencies, particularly those affected by ongoing reviews and recalibrations in flood control and other public works program. In January 2026, the Department of Public Works and Highways or DPWH recorded a 43.7% utilization rate. However, Libira noted that government spending is typically lower during the first quarter due to agency realignments under the General Appropriations Act. The DBM expects disbursement performance to improve before the end of the first quarter of the year. This is KRIZZA Lopez for Eurotv News.
The Senate has approved a proposed bill rescheduling the first ever BARM parliamentary elections on September. According to the senators, this extended time will help better preparations for the elections in the Bangsamoro region. Mia Layagin has the report.
The Senate of the Philippines approved on its third and final reading on Monday the bill seeking the reset of the first ever Bangsamoro Autonomous Region and Muslim Mindanao parliamentary elections on September 2026. Senate Bill number 1823 pushes for the rescheduling of the first BPE on the second Monday of September 2026, in this case, September 14. This bill seeks amendment on some provisions under organic law for the BARM, originally setting its first regular elections simultaneous with the 2022 national and local elections. This supposed schedule was postponed, citing legal and administrative issues, and was once again reset following the Supreme Court's ruling excluding Sulu as BARM member and unconstitutionalizing 2 districting laws. The ST ruling mandated the Commission on Elections to continue the preparations and hold elections not later than March 31, 2026. However, with 21 yes and no opposition and abstention, the Senate approved the bill resetting the BPE date in a much later month. The bill stated that the term office of those that will be elected will start by noon of October 30 and will end at June 11, 2031. Starting 2031, BARM elections shall be held 3 years thereafter. Under the bill, the Bangsamoro Transition Authority will remain as the interim government in the region. For Majority Leader Juan Miguel Zubiri, author of the bill, the approval of this bill is a step forward in ensuring that the BARM residents will be able to practice their right to vote for the leaders towards regional peace. Senator Joel Villanueva also expressed support in the reset of the polls, as this allows more time and preparation for the elections.
Out the will of the people. This measure is not about delaying democracy, rather it is about strengthening it. Let us view this reset as a commitment to genuine democracy, one where the people of BARM are able to participate fully, fairly, and confidently in choosing their leaders.
Meanwhile, the Office of the Presidential Advisor on Peace, Reconciliation and Unity also supported the passing of the bill as it allows a smoother transition process in Burma towards peace and democracy. The Senate expressed hope that the House of Representatives will approve its version of the bill. This is Mia Layagin for Eurotv News.
The Cybercrime Investigation Committee warns the public against online lending apps, especially those who are not registered with the agency. According to the CICC, although they are available on Google Play Store and App Store, it does not mean that they are safe and genuine for public consumption. Vanessa Cleophas has the report.
The Criminal Investigation and Coordinating Center or CICC has warned the public to be cautious about borrowing money from illegitimate and unregistered online lending platforms currently circulating on apps and websites. In a public advisory issued by the agency, the unregistered online lending apps identified include Tala Credit Loan App Quickly, Credipilar Smart Credit, Peso Now Loan App Philippine, Lucky Loan Happy Cash Loan App, and many others. According to the CICC, these platforms are not authorized by the Securities and Exchange Commission or SEC to operate. Although these apps may be found on the Google Play Store and App Store, this does not automatically mean they are legitimate. The Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commissioner PAOC noted that online lending app without SEC registration often charge extremely high interest rates, impose hidden fees, and if borrowers fail to pay promptly, resort to coercion and threats. Many of these apps also promise instant approval and require minimal documentation. It can be recalled that last year, several companies operating illegal online lending apps were raided by the National Bureau of Investigation or NBI, PAOC, SEC, and the Anti-Cybercrime Group due to abusive practices. Meanwhile, the CICC also launched a campaign against online lending apps called Fast Cash Mag-Ingat sa Scam. The agency has also set up hotline 1326 for the public to report if they fall victim to unregistered online lending apps. This is Vanessa Cleophas for Eurotv News.
The Agriculture Department temporarily suspends direct supplier of fertilizers in Mindoro after they were discovered expired. The DA says that the supplier may face a complaint, various charges, and may also be blacklisted in the province. Vanessa Cleophas returns.
The Department of Agriculture or DA has ordered the immediate suspension of the use, sale and distribution of fertilizer in Occidental and Oriental Mindoro supplied by Agri-Victorious Trading Corporation, which served as the provider of the said product in the provinces. In a stop use, move and sale or SUMS order issued by the agency through the Fertilizer and Pesticide Authority or FPA, the temporary suspension covers the inventory of fertilizer sacks that have already been delivered to the provinces. It was discovered that more than 11,000 sacks of fertilizer have an expired certificate of product registration from the FPA. According to the DA, the company may face penalties and possible blacklisting as a supplier once violation of established standards are confirmed. The department clarified that the FPA is currently investigating only the inventoried fertilizers and that those already distributed to beneficiaries farmers are not included, so there is no cause for concern. The initial batch of fertilizer that have been distributed also reportedly underwent laboratory testing and nutrient content analysis. Agriculture Secretary Francisco T. Laurel Jr. assured that having no FPA registration is non-negotiable, especially since the matter concerns food security. Meanwhile, the agency has issued a show cause order and notice of violation to the company, requiring it to explain the alleged negligence and regulatory breaches. At present, the investigation by the concerned agencies and authorities is ongoing. This is Vanessa Cleophas for Eurotv News.
Iranian officials have denied any steps of talks with the United States amid the ongoing war in the Middle East, stating that the Iranian leaders will not negotiate with Washington. Son Santiago with the report.
A top Iranian official has denied reports that Tehran is seeking to resume nuclear talks with Washington. Ali Larijani, Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, rejected a report by a U.S. publication claiming he had reached out through Omani mediators to restart nuclear talks following the killing of Iran's supreme leader. In a post on X, Larijani said Iran will not negotiate with the United States. Prior to the weekend strikes, Washington and Tehran had already held a series of meetings that sought to curb Iran's nuclear and missile programs. Larijani emphasized that Iran did not initiate the war and would continue to defend itself at any cost in a separate post. He accused U.S. President Donald Trump of destabilizing the Middle East, alleging that the American leader had drawn the region into what he described as an unnecessary war to support Israel's ambitions. Larijani also claimed Trump had shifted from an American first stance to prioritizing Israel, saying American soldiers and their families would ultimately bear the consequences of the conflict. Meanwhile, Israel carried out additional strikes across Iran as tensions is reaching its fourth day. It can be recalled that President Trump said combat operations will continue until their objectives are achieved, including regime change and ending alleged nuclear threats. Iran has responded with attacks targeting U.S. military assets across the Middle East, recently in Kuwait and Dubai. Larijani also addressed neighboring countries, saying Iran does not intend to attack them directly. However, he warned that if U.S. forces use bases located in those countries to launch operations against Iran, Tehran would treat those facilities as targets. According to Al Jazeera, preliminary casualty figures indicate 555 deaths in Iran, at least 10 in Israel, 4 U.S. soldiers, and 5 fatalities reported in Gulf states. This is Son Santiago for Eurotv News.
That's the latest news for tonight. You may visit EuroTVPH.com for more news and information. You may also catch our live broadcast through our social media accounts and via PinExtreme channel. I am Alvin PELOBELLO. Thanks for joining us. This is Eurotv News Thread. Stay safe. Have a good night, everyone.